Okay, in the third part of this lecture here, what I want to focus on is the fact that we have taxation by the government, which also limits our ability to achieve efficiency in the market or have maximized consumer surplus and producer surplus. So, right, as this three-part lecture, right, in the first part, the goal was trying to understand what it is to have efficiency, where efficiency was understood as being maximized consumer surplus and producer surplus with no deadweight loss. In the second part of this lecture, we had looked at one form of government intervention, which is when the government intervenes and sets the price at something other than the equilibrium price. So that would be something like a price ceiling, where the price is set below the equilibrium price. That would make it meaningful. And the price floor, where the price is set above the equilibrium price. In those two cases, right, passing that law that gives us a price floor and a price ceiling creates for us a deadweight loss. And again, the one amendment to this lecture that I'm going to provide for you is some of the mathematics that goes behind calculating those areas. In this third and final part, which is fortunately a rather short part, I want to just go over very briefly taxation, which is a more common form of government intervention in the marketplace that imposes an inefficiency. Before I actually go into showing that, though, let's also talk about why, very briefly, the government would ever intervene. Right? Because here we're seeing a situation, we certainly saw in the last lecture, but we're going to see it in this lecture as well, is that government intervention, you might think, is a really bad thing. Especially if you're, if you're of the belief that government intervention, you focus on that loss of efficiency in terms of the deadweight loss, right? Is that any government intervention, whether it takes the form of a price control or taxation, is going to create a deadweight loss. And so therefore, one could make the argument, right, that Adam Smith is right, laissez-faire, limited government intervention. But there might be cases where we want to have some government intervention. In those cases, sorry if there's a bell ringing, as it does every 15 minutes. The situation where you would want some government intervention would occur where you have a pursuit for equity, right? When we impose taxes on things, what we're trying to do is achieve some other social outcome, right? So we tax, for instance, driving a car. And one of the reasons why we drive a car, right, is that we have to pay for the roads. We have to, we want to not just let people just drive as cheaply as they want, because then they might drive too much, and if they drive too much, it's going to cause pollution. Right? We might want to try to restrict that activity, or we might want to use some of that gas tax, right, some of that gas taxation for public transportation so that everyone has some access to transportation, right? Or we might use it for bike lanes, right? We might use it for, we might use it for, pollution reduction, right? We might use it for smog testing, right? There's lots of reasons why we might impose taxes, and there's also reasons why we impose price floors and price ceilings. Think of the minimum wage, right? We impose it, although there are some people, right, that are not going to get work because of the minimum wage. We think in this society that everyone should, if they're willing to work, should earn a minimum wage that is, in our case, right, is not like 10 cents an hour, right? We set it so that it's above that. And as long as we don't let the equilibrium price be the reigning price, right, be the actual price, it's going to cause some inefficiency, but we might get more equity. Okay. So taxes, like price floors and price ceilings, we can understand them as causing a deadweight loss, and there are two forms that taxes can take. They can be either a specific tax or an ad valorem tax. A specific tax is a tax where we tax the quantity of the item, right? So, cigarette taxes are actually a specific tax because in the case of Wisconsin, right, and Minnesota, it's a certain number of dollars per pack of cigarettes or per carton of cigarettes. So it's per quantity. An ad valorem tax is a percentage of the purchase price. So that would be like the state sales tax. Now, what we're going to argue here is it really doesn't matter whether it's a specific tax or an ad valorem tax. What's meaningful for us is